Hi, I'm John Carlson, and I'd like to welcome you to the APA Psychotherapy video series. Hi, I'm John Carlson. I'd like to welcome you to the APA Psychotherapy series. This series is on relationships, and this program is on working with difficult couples. Our guest expert is Dr. Doug Schneider. Welcome, Doug.
Thank you.
Just what do you mean by difficult couples?
John, I think sometimes in my practice that all couples are difficult, but some couples are more difficult than others.
Yeah. What would be some examples of difficult couples?
I think the kinds of couples that are particularly difficult are those who are difficult for two or three reasons. One reason couples can be difficult is just the depth and breadth to which they lack basic relationship skills.
Okay.
Some couples come in with not only deficits in communication, deficits in parenting, deficits in making decisions, deficits in listening, deficits in expressing feelings, deficits in managing money. It can be deficits in anything.
Wow.
Just profound relationship skill deficits that make them difficult.
So
Couples can also be difficult because they come in crisis. It can be crises of domestic violence, crises around illness, crises of infidelity. Sometimes it's crises around major psychological disorders. And so dealing with the crises takes precedence over, at this point, just caring for the relationship.
And there's a third?
There is a third. Sometimes couples are difficult not because they don't have relationship skills, but because they have long-standing, enduring patterns of emotional reactivities in relationships that get in the way of making use of those skills. And when that happens, some of the work that has to be done is helping partners to understand themselves and each other in terms of those needs, those anxieties, those sort of defensive emotional buttons that get pushed.
So it wouldn't just be problems or couples that have multiple problems. It has to do with the lack of the skills, lack of crisis, and these patterns that exist over time.
And the lack of understanding. Yeah. That's right.
So if somebody were to work with a difficult couple, just what would they need to know, or how would they conceptualize working with a difficult couple?
They need to know everything.
Oh, that's easy.
They need to know everything. Working with difficult couples requires therapists to be skilled in the theories and the techniques from multiple therapeutic modalities.
Okay.
I don't think that you can work effectively with difficult couples from one theory, from one therapeutic modality. It can't be cognitive behavioral, it can't be just systemic to structural, it can't be just psychodynamic. Working with difficult couples requires two or three things.
So it's an integrative model.
Requires being able to have the understanding of the different schools. It requires having a way of pulling those together. That's the integrative conceptual model. Therapists have to have a way of organizing their thoughts about where am I with this couple? Where are we in the sequence of therapy? What does this couple need? So it's a conceptual model. And I think the third thing that the couple therapist needs to do is they really need to have some very specific information about how to work with couples where one partner or both partners have coexisting emotional or behavioral disorders. We know, for example, that marital distress, relationship distress, has high comorbidity with disorders like depression, anxiety, substance abuse, domestic violence. You have to know how to deal with those.
Sure. Now, the approach that you use is called affective reconstruction. Just how does that work with difficult clients?
In the model for working with difficult couples that I use, affective reconstruction is at the top of the hierarchy. That doesn't mean that it comes first. It means that it comes last. Here's what I mean by affective reconstruction. Sometimes couples have all the skills that they need that they could use in any other relationship but their own. In those cases, what I want to know with couples is what's getting in the way. What's getting in the way of your being the kind of partner that you aspire to be? What's getting in the way of your being the kind of partner that sometimes you can be, but other times you can't? When I ask that question, there are two kinds of things that I want to look at. Part of what I want to look at is just what's the meaning that you're bringing to what's happening right now. Sometimes that meaning is rooted in the here and now. Sometimes it's nothing more than attributions that they're making that aren't accurate. Sometimes what's getting in the way of using those skills are emotional reactivities that those partners bring into their marriage from previous relationships. Could be early relationships in the family, it could be previous marriages, it could be previous relationships in late adolescence. I want to help them understand what is it that I'm bringing into this relationship in terms of needs, anxieties, that get in the way at times of my doing what I know how to do.
So is there a theoretical underpinning to this approach?
Broadly, affective reconstruction falls within the insight-oriented approaches to couple therapy. If you think about insight-oriented approaches, they really fall along a continuum. You have at the one end sort of the very traditional, almost psychoanalytic approaches to working with couples, where the presumption is that the difficulties in the relationship are from blocking of instinctual impulses and urges very early in development, first 2 years of life. That would anchor sort of the extreme end on one side. On the other side would be cognitive models that look much more at the here and now. What are the attributions, perhaps what are the schema that you have, but they're all about what are the cognitions that are interfering in this moment and in the present. Affective reconstruction generally falls somewhere between those two extremes, but clearly slants toward the more psychodynamic and the more insight-oriented techniques.
So on the personal side, how did you happen to get into this work with couples in this particular approach?
It's an interesting question. There are really two questions. Sort of how did I get interested in couples and how did I get interested in this approach? I think like many of us, I got interested in couples in part by working with my own marriage and trying to understand me and trying to understand our relationship. And early in graduate school, I had just been married. And a part of the work that drew me into working with couples was trying to understand what was happening in my relationship. But more importantly, perhaps, is why this theoretical approach? I was trained as a pluralist. I was trained by people who were...
And a pluralist means what to you?
Pluralist for me means somebody who is schooled in both the theories and the techniques of a broad range of therapeutic modalities. It's not about eclecticism. It's not about taking this technique and taking that technique. It's about always working within a theory, but drawing on different theories at different times. So I was trained by Rogerians and operant behaviorists and cognitive behaviorists and training analysts. And that led to a real appreciation by me of both the strengths and the limitations of different theoretical models. My work, my goal in my own practice and in training other clinicians is to think of what are the best ways for drawing on the strengths of different therapeutic schools at different times. It's not about which therapy works best. It's about which therapy at which moment with which client.
So does change take place in many different ways?
Change definitely takes place in different ways. We can think about intervening cognition and affect and behavior and intervening at any one of those points in the individual system and the couple's relationship system to try to bring about change in the other two. Sometimes we just prescribe behaviors. If we can get these partners doing something differently, they're going to feel different and they're going to think different. Sometimes what we need to do is to get in there and deal with one of the others, either with just changing the cognitions or changing the affect.
Now, are there steps or stages or a procedure process that you follow in this approach?
I think there's a place that you start and there may be a place that you end up. I think one of the fundamental differences in working with couples from working with individuals is that when individuals come into therapy, there's a presumption that there's something that they need to do. There's a reason that they're there. When couples come into therapy, that presumption isn't necessarily there. Partners come in oftentimes not because there's something that they think that they need to do differently, but that the other one needs to do differently. So with couples, getting that alliance, that collaborative set established immediately is really critical. The client in couple therapy isn't either partner, the client is the relationship. We always start there. From there, if there are crises that the couple is struggling with, we're going to get in and try to resolve those crises, because when a couple is in crisis, you don't do anything else. You don't teach relationship skills in crisis, you try to contain the crisis. After dealing with crises, if there are crises, we want to strengthen the relationship, and then we want to teach couples how to do that on their own. If there are fundamental relationship skills that they're lacking, we need to get in there and we need to teach those. For some couples, that's enough. Some couples come in and the reason that they're there is they're in crisis, and after you get the crisis contained, they can do everything else. Some couples really need teaching those skills. Some couples have the skills, but they're not able to use them because of thoughts and feelings that are getting in the way. When that happens, once you see that that happens, then you go on and you do the other.
Well, you know, in order to help us understand better how you work with a difficult couple, we have a couple for you named Mary and Gary. And can you set that up for our viewers, what they should look for in the session that's going to follow of your work with them?
Absolutely. I had a chance to talk with Mary and Gary briefly before working with them. This is what I know about them. Mary and Gary are both 50 years old. This is the second marriage for both of them. They've been married just 2 years. Gary's first marriage ended after a couple of years, and he spent roughly the next 16 or 20 years in combat with his first wife around their son.
Wow.
He's been without a partner and largely not in an intimate relationship, he'll say, for most of his life. Mary's first marriage also ended in divorce, but after some time, after 20 years. So this is, on the one hand, it's a moderately older couple, but they're also newlyweds. 8 months ago, Mary was diagnosed with cancer. This is a very pernicious kind of cancer. It started in her spine. We know now that it's migrated into her brain, also into her adrenal glands. It may have also migrated into her wrist.
So it's really pretty far developed.
It is developing quickly, and it is spreading. This is absolute crisis for them. It would be a crisis for any couple. Mary and Gary not only have the crisis of cancer, but they have everything else that goes along with that. She's no longer working. Just prior to being diagnosed with cancer, they had built on a major addition to their home. Their mortgage nearly doubled. They have 2 grown sons living with them who present stresses of their own. So what I know about this couple is that they are dealing with a remarkable crisis.
So what should our viewers look at in you? That gives them a little bit of background about Gary and Mary, but how about your work in terms of just what you're doing in this session?
I think what I want the viewers to look for is look at trying to deal with affect for this couple. This is a couple who are not dealing with the emotional impact of this cancer in their life. All of this session is going to be about seeing whether we can help them do that in better ways.
Okay, so we should watch the ways in which you do that, help them to see if they can deal with how they feel about the problem or the problems in their marriage.
How they feel about the cancer, and also how they're dealing with each other's feelings around the cancer.
Hey, let's watch.
Okay. Gary and Mary, thank you for being here tonight, and willingness to meet with me and to share with me and also share with our viewers some of your private lives and your intimate story. This is a bit of a new situation for me. I know it's a new situation for you. We had a chance to talk just a little bit earlier for you to get to know a little bit about me and for me to get to know more about you. And I would like to have you begin our work tonight just by telling us a little bit about you as a couple, and then bring us up to date about what are you wrestling with now, and because that's where we're going to focus tonight. So both of you talk with me about who you are as a couple. Either one of you can start.
Well, I think we're real happy together as a couple. You know, I waited a long time to meet someone like Mary, and she's brought my life to a better place, let's say. I've never been happier before, and it's 100% of it has got to do with her. You know, what she brings to the table for me. I was never in a real loving relationship like I am with her, because, you know, every time you talk on the phone, it ends with love you, see you later, or, you know, when I'm working or something like that. And her daughter's the same way. You know, every time you talk to him, it's okay, see you later, love you, everything's, you know, and I never was like that.
That's
you
special.
know? I've never been like that, and it took me a long time to actually kind of accept it, because I always thought, like, okay, love you, know, this kind of thing. And now it's more meaning now, and it keeps us really close together, and we never seem to drift at all. You know,
important to you, and this marriage feels different than you had ever experienced before.
Yeah, it's been the best. It really has.
And a while to come to trust that feeling.
Yeah. Oh, it took a long time. It took us a long time. Going out, we broke up many times because for some reason I don't know what happened to me, but I always grew out of love with her or something, you know, or I don't know if inside I might have been a little scared inside. I don't know. You know?
Her interpretation isn't that you fell out of love, but that you were frightened by the love.
It seemed like I don't know what it was. You know, after we'd go out for a while, then all of a sudden, for some reason, it's like I liked her, but it didn't feel right here. And it took about 4 breakups, and a nice talk after the last one. We got together actually at a friend of ours' mother's wake, and went back to her apartment, and for 3 hours we did nothing but talk about the time we weren't together and what we expect in the future, or, you know, do you want to try it again? And she says, you know, I don't want to be hurt again. And I says, well, let's start a little slow. And
I didn't trust him.
And of course she didn't. I didn't blame her at all.
So did the last breakup fix it?
The last one was the key. Yes, it was. You know.
And that time when you got back together, this time it stuck.
Yeah, it was like.
And this time you didn't run.
No, I didn't run.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I was ready to run.
Yeah. So I want to hear from you too. Tell me who you are as a couple. Tell me about yourselves. Tell me about the marriage.
Well, the marriage is, you know, I think is really strong. You know, we have a really good. We're the best of friends. You know, that to me, I think you have to be best friends. I think to have a good marriage. You know, somebody you could go to and just about, you know, tell them anything that's on your mind. And we've had a lot, you know, in the last. Well, we just got married. It was 2 years ago, and just last.
This is the second marriage, is
yeah, second marriage for both of us. And
you're still newlyweds.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Well, it's after 2 years, so I don't know. I suppose
we were going to have a small wedding, but we had this big wedding. It was just wonderful. It's everything, you know, we could expect. And then last February, we got hit with news that I have cancer, real rare cancer. So it's been. I don't know if I can talk now.
Hang in there with me. It's okay.
It's been hard on her. It was hard on me at first because of all the running to the hospital all the time. I'd stay overnight at the hospital and leave from the hospital and go to work, and you know, and then, you know, when we're home at night and stuff, or when I get home in the evening, or even during the day when we have because I call her every day, you know, at least once or twice, see how she's feeling.
You know that this is a hard time for her.
Yeah, and you know, I could tell in her voice if she's not feeling good, and it's most of the time she's not, and sometimes she has a good day, and that's when she starts really, really doing things around the house that she likes to do, and
Get this over to you.
then the next day, of course, she's hurting and worn out.
Did you realize this was a hard time for her in here even just a moment ago, that she was finding it hard to talk about?
Yeah.
Is that why you came in to help take that over for her?
Well, I help her out every time I can, every chance I get.
Mary, I know this is hard, and at no time tonight when we do this are we going to do it if you just can't. And I want you to know that. If we can't, you just let me know, and we won't, and he and I will do it. But I want to try to do it if we can. I want to try to hang in there and do this as best we can. And If the words come slowly or if the words come with difficulty, that's fine. If at times it's just so hard that we just have to stop and weep, we'll do that too. But I want you to hang in there with me as best you can. Help me understand what has happened. I know that you were diagnosed with cancer in February. I know that other things have happened too. Some of them related to that, some not. Talk with me about what's happened and talk with me about what you're struggling with.
Well, I've always been a worker since I was 14, you know. I work all the time. I still do now, and I'm not really supposed to. But, so for me, it's hard for me to have him, you know, like we had just built an addition. We started in October, and I was diagnosed in February. Well, you know, you take on a project like that as, you know, a couple, you know, 2 incomes. And then, you know, so of course I feel guilty because, you know, I feel us as a team with everything, you know. And I just feel like I'm not, you know, part of the team.
What part of the team are you supposed to be?
She's very much part of the team. She just struggles with the fact that she can't do the things today that she used to do.
Talk with me about how she's a part of the team, because she doesn't feel that way, and it's hard even for her to talk.
Well, she thinks she's putting a load on me as far as money coming into the home, you know, because when I was off over the winter with shoulder surgery, and I wasn't getting paid from work other than some vacation pay and some sick pay. But as far as my regular pay, you know, they didn't pay me at all. And then we found out she was off, so neither one of us were making money. And then, you know, I went back to work, and of course the project's still going on, and we're trying to pay all the guys as they're going on with the project, and
Gary,
she
I'm sorry.
can't help.
I know I'm interrupting you. This is a very difficult time. I know you're really struggling, and there is a lot more pressure on you. I wonder if you could, though, for now, just for now, turn to Mary and tell her how she is a member of the team. That's what I want you to do.
Well, you should never, ever think that you're not doing the things you are supposed to or can do. That's what I think, and I've always told you that.
How is she a member of the team? Now, what is it that she provides now that makes her a member of this team for you?
Well, first of all, she's married to me, and she supports me, and no matter what I do. She's very, very supportive. She's very loving, and she still does things, I mean, simple things like making my lunch in the morning. She gets up with me and makes my coffee and makes my lunch and makes sure I have, you know, something to go to work with and a kiss goodbye and, you know, a call in the afternoon. And either I call her or she calls me, and just to talk with each other. And if she wasn't in my life, I wouldn't have that. I wouldn't have that person to wake up to. I wouldn't have that person to talk to and just tell her how my day's going, whether she's having a good day or bad, you know. And she's always there for you. I mean, 100%, she's always there for you.
The way that she is a member of this team for you isn't about the income that you're earning or the income that you're not earning. The way that she is a member of this team for you is the emotional support that she brings to you. That's what you need most from her. Is there any way that she's not doing that?
Never.
Yeah.
Never. She's always there for me.
I want to make sure you hear that.
She gets a little guilty, and I tell her you shouldn't be guilty.
Tell me what you feel when you hear those words from him.
Well, I mean, I believe him. I know that I give him all those things, but I don't know. It's hard for me to accept that. I'm not one just to sit around. I never watch TV. You know, like you said, I do stuff I shouldn't because then I hurt even more. But that's just the way I am, I guess. I guess I should take better care of myself. But
it's hard for you to sort through. There's a part of you that clearly knows that you are there for him emotionally and that means a lot to him. You hear it. You certainly understand it up here. Mm-hmm. It's hard to feel it down here.
Yeah.
This is part of it.
I just, you know, maybe it's, you know, denial on the cancer part that I'm probably not going to work again, you know, stuff like that. So, like I said, I've enjoyed my work. I've been a hairstylist for like 25 years, you know, and I still love doing it. So, you know, it's hard to just, I don't know, it's such a big change in your life in every direction, you know.
Boy, I want to talk with you about that change, Mary, because I want to understand that. A part of the change is just the economic change and the stress that that's bringing to you. It would be difficult under any circumstances, and it's especially difficult now that you were counting on that to help pay off the new addition on the house. So it's difficult economically. There's a part of this that is hard for you emotionally because it changes your role in the marriage. It gives less ability in one area, perhaps allows you to give more time and energy in another, but it's hard for you that way. There's sort of a loss of identity, a part of your identity, your work identity that comes with this. Talk with me about how else this is hard for you. Talk with me about how else this is stressful for you.
Well, I guess just mostly not knowing where I am because the cancer I have is so rare. I get the feeling they don't know what to do with me, kind of. You know, the doctors, I went from one hospital to another, and they get to a certain point, and then they start, what's the word?
Guessing or?
Yeah, not guessing. They're afraid to do one thing or the other because there's a fine line, between chemo and radiation, or do we just leave it? But they seem to have left it. They had found a cell in my spinal fluid in May, but they didn't tell me because they said there was just one. But then since May, now it's in my pituitary gland. So of course I'm thinking the one that was in my spine that's not there, the last spinal tap, went to my brain. So of course I'm thinking, they're going to keep ignoring the one here or there. Then it keeps popping up other places, So that's
Can we
real
pause
stressful.
here for a moment?
Sure.
I mean, there's frustration. I hear the frustration. I hear the confusion. But I think there's something else, and so I want to try to get to that other feeling. Not knowing where you are. That was the phrase that you used. I want you to talk about that, not knowing where you are. What feeling goes with that?
Well, I guess, I think about all the time, like, how long am I going to be here? If they, I don't know where I'm at because it's not like you're going after just one thing, and they have this plan, on how to fight it because, like I said, it's such a strange cancer that they have trouble finding it because it moves around.
When you have those thoughts,
there's no plan.
When you have those thoughts of how long am I going to be here, and not having a sense that there's a plan of action, and even are they going to overlook it or are they not going to treat it? How long am I going to be here? Tell me about the conversations that you have with Gary about those thoughts.
Sometimes the way I'm feeling, ill-wise, I'm sometimes afraid to go to sleep, because I get so, weak that, I'm not going to wake up, So, he's always there to support me, saying, oh, I'm going to be here, and, you're just exhausted, and he's always there for me to hold me and stuff, He's quite a special guy.
Yeah. He provides lots of encouragement to you.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of optimism. He keeps the faith for you.
Yeah, he's never
Tells
negative.
a few jokes every now and then. Does silly things just to make her laugh,
He doesn't even try. It just happens. But no, he's very supportive. He's very, he's never negative or anything.
He uses his humor to help offset your despair.
Yes, he does. Like I said, we have a very special marriage. It's just, it's hard because it took so long to find,
I think of it sometimes, I've had, 6-7 months since February, whatever it is, 6-7 months to think about all this, and the way this cancer operates. It's not the cancer that would kill her or do anything like that. It's what it's doing to the rest of her body and the way she feels. She's always tired because the pain killers that she's on, the medicine she's on. I do a lot of praying, and that keeps me more positive. The hard part the hard part isn't over. The hard part in the beginning was going to the hospital all the time because, you know, they told us, he says, if anything, you feel bad about this, or this, go to the hospital. So we did. So after a lot of research, especially by her daughter, she did all the research on the computer and, you know, found out a lot of things, what other people are going through. So through that, we've learned to discuss it with the doctors, and we could keep her out of the hospital now. You know, so she's at home most of the time. So we found a way to keep her out of the hospital by just knowing a lot more about this through research.
Part of the stress for you was just the energy and the time in going to the hospital.
That was the worst.
What is the hardest part for Mary emotionally? What's your understanding of the hardest part that she has?
Not being able to do the things that she used to be able to do. She can't sit still. She's very much alive, and this particular thing is just, it makes her so exhausted. She cannot do the things that she wants to do in life, and that's what's very, very frustrating for her.
You think the hardest part for her emotionally is right now the loss of activity, the loss of sort of work role, whether it's work in the home or work outside the home?
It's just that, well, enjoying life, actually.
It's hard to enjoy life when you're constantly in pain or you're constantly tired. You know, it's hard for her to enjoy life, you know.
What's next in line for her as most difficult emotionally after that?
Well, one thing that bothers her, because of the tumor in her back and because she gets tired a lot and stuff, we have 2 grandkids. Well, the grandson's a little heavy. He's almost 70 pounds, so she doesn't want to lift him at all. But we have a little granddaughter who's my favorite. I hate, you know, she's my girl, you know, and she can't pick her up and hug her. She can go down and give her a hug, you know, but she can't pick her up and give her a hug or walk around with her because she's afraid, you know, something in the back, because through the radiation it weakened the back a little bit, and she had some stress fractures back there and had to have them cemented, so she can't lift over like 15 or 20 pounds.
Part of your understanding for Mary is that a part of what's hard for you is, at least for now, losing out on that kind of relationship with the grand youngster, being able to hold, cuddle, lift, play with, throw in the air.
Because I was a wrestler and run and chase and that kind of and then so many things change. It's like unbelievable.
Mary, I want to describe that. I want to label that as a loss of vision. I want to label that as a loss of a dream about how you and they were going to play together.
Yeah.
What dream for the 2 of you do you worry about?
Losing her. That's the only one, really.
Did the 2 of you talk about that?
No. I keep telling her, I says, you know what, I believe in miracles. I believe in a man upstairs. He didn't give her to me for a year and a half and say, okay, we're going to kind of take a part of her away from her now, and then maybe later on the rest of her, I don't believe that. My sister Judy actually helped me on that, because the one time I had a conversation with her when I was at my lowest, when she was in and out of hospital so many times. She goes, Gary, you have to believe that nothing's going to happen to her. Mary brought so much love to our family and brought our family so much closer just by being a part of the family.
Your prayer life, your spiritual life helps keep you grounded.
As soon as she said that, my whole attitude changed, and I don't believe for a day. I mean, thoughts do come in your mind. If she wasn't there, how would I be? And then I said, I don't even want to think about that.
Put it out.
I just want to think about it. Keep praying for her that the man upstairs gave her this. The man upstairs can take it away.
One of the ways that you get through is that you really do. You find in your spiritual life and your faith life a way of putting that out, a way of not letting yourself fear that.
Right.
That you have to have faith,
right,
that it will work out.
Mm-hmm.
And that works for you. Mm-hmm. It allows you to move forward. It allows you to smile. It allows you to joke. And it allows you to play. I'm wondering how Mary struggles and what works for her. And so I want you to ask her about that. I want you to ask her how she deals with those thoughts and those feelings and fears when she has them. Ask her about them right now, and ask her during those times what she most needs from you. Just ask her and have her talk with you about that.
What do you fear, Mayor? What is your biggest fear? What do you think you're going anywhere?
Good for you. Good for you.
Well, most of the time, no, I don't try to think I'm leaving, like you said, because we just, found each other, so that part I try not to think about. But then I have my nights where, when I get so sick, I don't think I'm going to make it, but like I said, you're there, and then it's all that fear goes away. I'm just, you comfort me so much, then it just kind of leaves my mind. So
tell him how he does that. Tell him how he comforts you.
Just by holding me real tight, telling me that you love me, and like you always remind me that the man upstairs wouldn't have put us together if he's going to take us away this fast. He's not going to do that. So that's all I can say is you're always there to make me forget the bad thoughts that jump in my mind much too often, but they do. So I thank you for that.
Scary need from you.
What do you need from me?
I really don't need anything more than she gives me right now. She gives me everything.
Tell her.
You give me everything that I've ever wanted in my life. Sick or not sick, you know what? That doesn't stop me from talking to you on the phone or when we're home together. It doesn't stop me from joking around and putting a little humor in our lives, and it doesn't stop me from doing some of the things I like to do, like going bowling or going fishing, like I'm going to be doing this weekend. You know how much I love it, and you say, go enjoy yourself. You deserve it. You haven't stopped me from anything in my life that I would ever miss, because as long as you're here in the flesh, alive and breathing, I pretty much have everything that I've ever wanted out of somebody.
Because I always think, like, I always turn to him to not complain. I guess it is, but when I'm not feeling good, it's like he must get so tired of hearing me.
Do you ever get so tired? You get so tired of hearing me complain and being in pain?
Yeah, she just asked me the other day. I said, Mayor, I don't even want you to say that to me, because I don't get tired of listening. I said, I understand as much as I could understand, what she's going through, and anytime she wants to talk about it, it's never old news. It's never boring. It's never dull. It doesn't ever seem like the same story.
Earlier when we were talking, you used the word guilt to describe feelings that you wrestle with. Mm-hmm. It really sounds like those are just frequently present feelings, and they're strong feelings when you have those. Can you just talk about the feelings of guilt?
Well, like I said, I've always been a worker. I just feel like, I was meant to, I guess not just sit around. That's why I'm always looking for another project or something. Like, I'm guilty if I just sit there for a minute. In fact, I don't watch TV. The only thing I watch is like the news or something. I think I should be doing more than I am.
How does your guilt help you to be a more effective or a better wife? How does your guilt help you?
I don't think it does. It probably gets in the way. I don't know. I don't like feeling that way.
I don't know either, but I want to be able to talk about both sides. I don't know whether it's helpful, and I don't know whether it gets in the way, but I do want to talk about both sides of that. Mm. And it may be that that plays roles on both sides. Let's talk about the helpful side first. Maybe there isn't any helpful part of it, I don't know. But I want to talk briefly about that part, but then I want to flip to the other side, the part that at times it gets in the way. So I want to be able to do both. Talk with me about the times that the guilt works for you, or that it helps you to be a better partner.
I don't think there is.
You really can't think of one, can you?
I think it makes you stronger, Mayor.
Guilt.
Yeah, because then you try harder, and you make yourself do more, which is not exactly a good thing for her, because sometimes she needs a rest and she fights it, and I'm always constantly asking her to lay down. I says, when the body tells you you're tired, you lay down and take a rest for a half hour or an hour or 2 hours, whatever it is. But of course, she has too much to do. And,
Sometimes.
But I almost collapsed, though. The other night I almost collapsed. In fact, I did, just about.
So he sees it sometimes as helping you to aspire to something, that sometimes that guilt plays a kind of a motivational or inspirational role for you, and he sees that as a strengthening kind of a function. But you recognize that at times what happens is it pushes beyond that healthy level, and it takes you to a point where you're just exhausted. And I think that's why when you think about that guilt, it's harder for you to see ways that it's constructive and healthy for you. You do see ways in which it's unhealthy. Talk with me more about that part.
Oh, well, I mean, now that you're saying it's like, it does, like, okay, I'll just do one more thing. I'll fold another load of clothes or something, but then my back, I start getting stabbing pains in that, and the other day, before I know it, I was going to take a nap, and then, I'll do this and I'll do that, and the day just went by, and I was actually near exhaustion, where I got really sick, and I just, had to go to bed, right now. I don't even know what time it was, 6 o'clock or something.
You really see ways in which that guilt drives you too far.
Yeah.
Becomes physically unhealthy for you. It may also become emotionally unhealthy for you.
Both, yeah. Definitely.
Before the diagnosis of cancer, did you ever have that feeling in the marriage? Did you ever have feelings of guilt? I'm not doing enough. I need to be doing more.
Well, the only thing she had, it'd pop up every now and then, is she thought she should make more money.
Oh, yeah. Because I
That was
was
the only
working
one I've seen.
part-time, actually, because, I was only working part-time because I had a leg problem, but that was another story.
So guilt is a new feeling for you? That's not a feeling you've had much in the past in your life?
No, because, like I said, I've always worked as hard as, I thought possible. I was never lazy or anything like that, so no, I wasn't guilty.
It's not a familiar feeling. It's a new one, and it's a new one that you struggle with. How can Gary be helpful to you when you struggle with that guilt? How can he be helpful to you when you struggle most with that guilt?
Well, he always does help me. It's just, I don't know if you could make it go away, but...
I'm trying.
He always tells me, don't feel guilty, and, he's the best. He's always... Like I said, tell me to lay down and I shouldn't be doing this. And he's always been real helpful with anything, grocery shopping. If I ask him to do anything, he never moans or complains, or he's better than the boys is another story. But, he just, I don't know. I don't know if there is a way that he could help me. It's something I have to kind of work myself.
He tries. He works at it. He tries to...
Yes, I don't know if there's anything else he can do, because he's already doing it.
He tries to persuade you or argue you out of it.
Right.
And sometimes that works. And to whatever extent it doesn't, you sort of own that as your issue. That's something that I need to do. I don't know that he can do anymore, is what you said. What would you need to do differently? If a part of this guilt that ends up being unhealthy for you, unhealthy for you personally, and then unhealthy in the marriage, because it takes you to a point of exhaustion, which isn't what he wishes for you,
right,
and may actually get in the way of other relationship things. If there's a part of that guilt that he can't do anything about, but which is yours to take care of, how can you do that better?
I need to listen to myself, I guess, and to him more, because I'm just hurting myself, because I'm not going to be able to enjoy the things that I'm missing so much, is because I'm putting myself to exhaustion and pain when it's not necessary.
If you engage in those kinds of thoughts, is that helpful to you?
No.
How could you make it helpful then? You already do some of that, but it's not taken hold. It's like
when I think of it, I just have to tell myself there's nothing to be guilty about. It's nothing I did on purpose, or,
Is that
Did I-
helpful to you?
When I say
When you say those things, is that helpful
Oh,
to
yeah.
you?
I just have to say it more to myself.
He's always more than willing to remind you of that.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
And it's helpful to you when he does.
Oh, definitely.
You need to be willing to share that with him when you're struggling with that.
When you asked her that question, I was hoping you would come back to me, and maybe you will, I don't know.
To you?
Come to me and ask me
go
the
there.
same thing, what I thought. And the first thing that came to my mind when she was answering, before she answered, was listening. They always say that listening's a skill,
What is it that you most want her to hear?
She needs to listen to me. She needs to listen to her friends, her family, and her daughter. She needs to listen to the people telling her to take a nap when she needs to take a nap. Sit down when you need to sit down. Don't worry about if that laundry or that dishes don't get done. And lately, I've been thinking that she spoiled me a real lot when it comes to things around the house. Now, I make sure I do all the things that the guys do, make sure the lawn's done, outside stuff, the painting, all the, fixing, little fix-up jobs I do, do all this stuff, doing a tar in the driveway or whatever.
You're a good traditional guy and a good traditional husband.
But I think now, and she spoiled me because she makes my lunch and she cleans the house and cleans the bathroom, and we got the kids to vacuum and that stuff, and my son actually cuts the lawn. But I think it's getting to the time where I'm thinking, she spoiled me so much. It's time for me to come home from work and she always tells me, sit down, you work hard, take it easy. It's time for me to say, no, I don't think I worked too hard today, and help her with maybe cleaning the house or doing the dishes or all the things that she does in the house. I think it's time for me to start helping her a little bit
There
more.
are ways that I can expand my role and do more. And will she allow you to do that?
Oh, she don't have a say. If I want to do it, I'll do it.
Not if I do it first.
Yeah, well, there it is. I won't tell her what I'm going to do. Let's put it that way. Or
You
else
guys-
I'll probably be done when I
He
get
used to
home.
always be, he was always very
So I
helpful.
need to worry about you guys sort of fighting over, you work so hard at supporting each other that sometimes perhaps you don't take care of yourself in the way that you need to. Gary, is there any way of giving that message to Mary more effectively? Is there any way of giving that message
Just
to
doing
her?
it. Doing what I say. That would be the most effective thing. That way, when she's in the house and she sees this or this or this has to be done, and I've done at least one of those things the night before, I think that would lighten the load, and she's very appreciative. If I just let the dog out or something, she's very appreciative of whatever you do, as small or as large as it is. So I think that would help her, only to know that I'm thinking about her and her health, and she knows that I'm doing it because I'm trying to lighten the load on her and make her feel
It's
better.
important to you that she trust in your generosity.
Right.
It's important to you that she trust in your wanting to step up beyond what the traditional guy does and to help out more during this time of need. It's important to you that she relinquish her guilt so that you have an opportunity to nurture in ways that otherwise you wouldn't have. Convince her that if she doesn't do that, that she's depriving you of an opportunity right now to give in a way that which is not only giving to her, but giving to you. Try to use this moment to convince her of that here. That she needs not to take care of herself, not only for her, but as a way of giving to you that opportunity to give back. That's what I want you to persuade her of. I just want you to talk with her about that.
I'm going to step it up a little bit, and I know you think I work real hard, and I work 6 days a week. I don't get too many Saturdays off unless I ask for them off. But it's something I want to do for you because I don't want to see you as tired as you are, and if I do one thing a day for you that you don't have to do, I think that'll help out tremendously. Not that the fact that you don't have to do it, but because you appreciate anything anybody ever does for you. And you know what? I want you to stick around for a long, long time. And maybe that's my way of lightening the load for you, letting you know that I don't work quite that hard and I can work a little harder. It's not going to kill me.
Tell her why it's important to you. Tell her why, if you don't let me do this for you, it takes something away from me. I want you to talk with her about that part. Because I think it does. I think it takes away something for you if you don't allow him to care during this time in the way that he wants to. Does that make sense what I'm saying to you? Does that statement make sense? So I want you to be able to talk with her about not just your wish to care for her, but I want you to talk with her about what it takes away from you. If somehow she blocks this time and this occasion opportunity for you to step up and go the extra mile, talk with her about what that takes away from you. Because that's the only way she's going to do it. Mm-hmm. She's not going to do it for herself. She will only do it if she's convinced that by giving that up, it's a way of giving back to you. That's the only way she's going to do this. So I need for you to talk with her about that part of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Do that.
I think it's time that you realize that, you know, I do have to step it up a little bit more.
Why?
Tell her about it. It makes me feel better to do it for you. It makes me feel that I'm not only out working and, you know, supporting our family and our house and our home. It makes me feel like I'm helping you out, and it makes me feel good to do something for you that maybe so you don't have to do it for one reason, for whatever, or just it makes me feel better if I could do something for you because I know how appreciative you are. And you know, when you keep getting exhausted day after day after day, I don't like to see that. You were, before you got sick, you were always smiling, and I made a few comments in the past. This is how come you don't smile no more, even though I know why you don't smile no more. And you made that extra effort to smile a little more because I made that comment. I want you to smile more, and I know if I did things for you a little more than I have been around the house, I think that'll make you smile just a little bit more.
Ask her what her tears are right now.
And
ask her what her tears are right now.
Can you tell me what your tears are?
Good for you. Hang in there.
I guess what bothers me is I don't think that, you know, you should be coming home doing this stuff. I think we need to get the boys to help. Because unless I'm laying in the hospital, they're not getting that. They should be more helpful. You know, we have two kids that are 18 and 23, and, you know, they sit around way too much, and that bothers me. And I hate always asking. My 18-year-old always says, well, just make a list, Mom. I'll do anything for you. I just, you know, I don't see the dirt like you do. So, you know, that kind of thing.
So part of your frustration is with them not taking on what they should take.
That's a big one.
And it's just part of it's just work frustration. I'm sorry. Part of it is frustration. A part of it may be, look, if I'm gonna be a good mom, I got to instill in them the right kind of values so that they can be good, caring, supportive partners for their wives when they get married. There's a part of that as well. That's in there, but I don't want you to focus on that in a way that misses what he's trying to tell you. Because what he's trying to tell you is being able to provide for you, not just by his work outside the home. That's a big piece of it. But being able to provide for you in the home is an important part of him. It's an important part of how he feels good about himself. It helps him to feel better as a person. It helps him to feel more of a man in taking care of his wife. I think it makes him feel better about his faith life and being true to that. He needs to be able to do that for you because it's better for him, in addition to being better for you.
Well, he's been saying it the last week or so. He's, you know, said, I need to help you more around here. Of course, I disagree with him. But
well, if you hear that as, I need to help you more around here because you need it, what you're going to say is, no, I don't, I'm okay, you don't need to do that for me, I can do this. That's not the message I'm asking you to hear tonight.
I know.
He's not saying, I need to do this in order to be helpful to you. The message that he's giving you tonight is, I need to do this because when I do, I feel better about myself. That's the message that he's giving you. So I want you to mirror that part back. I want you to restate that part back so that he knows that you've heard that. And also because I want to make sure that you've heard it, you're a little bit more likely to say it to yourself after tonight outside of here. And that's much more important to me than what you say tonight. So that's why I want you to say this back. Gary, I hear from you.
Gary, I hear from you that when you want to do something for me, it's not only helping me out, you know, because I'm sick and stuff, but it'll make you feel better, you know, because you're, you know, that's your way of showing me how much you love me and care for me, and it's in the long run better for our marriage if I let you help me more.
And it's better for him, and it's better for the marriage. Are you willing to believe that?
Oh, yes.
You do believe it. I don't have to persuade you. You know.
No,
You're willing to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
No, I want you to believe it. I'm convinced that it's true. Now all I need you to do is to remember it. What will help you remember?
It'll help me.
When I remind her when we were here, and I'll look at her, I says, do you remember what Doug told us?
Yeah, you dragged me in to talk with Doug, and we did this. Now, and I need for you to take some of this with you home. That's what he's going to remind you.
No,
It won't take much.
Will that be helpful to you?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If he reminds you, are you willing to hold on to that piece from here?
Yes.
You will.
It'll be hard, but I will. Okay. I have to keep reminding myself that it's, you know, for him too, that he'll feel better. Because if it's just for me, it's like you said, I'll just say I can do this. I mean, I'll do this, you know, I make myself do it till I'm sick.
You can do it better if you get some reminders. Mm-hmm. You know from our talk tonight, my wish for you to be able to handle that part better. And doing that part better isn't about doing more. It's about allowing yourself to be cared for by him in a way that allows him to feel better about him. And allows this marriage to draw on what marriages are supposed to provide. And that's that caring when people need it. Is there any help that you're going to need remembering what we've done tonight when you leave and how to do this better?
No, I don't need help there because, you know, just in her voice on the phone or when we're together and just looking at her like, you know, like there's many times at night I'll wake up and I look next to me and there's nobody there because she wakes up and goes downstairs and whatever, you know, she does at night. I don't know. I'm still in bed, you know, but all the time I know she's either hurting or she can't sleep or something's bothering her. There's a constant reminder there that I don't need help there. I see that constant reminder every single day now.
You don't need any kind of reminder about what she needs from you. You don't need that.
I don't think so.
No. What I want you to remember is when you tell her about your wish to help, I want you to remember that to tell her, I'm doing this not only for you, but you have to let me do this because it makes me feel better about me. Your gift to him is allowing him to give to you. That's the part I want you to remember to remind her of when she forgets it. We're going to stop. This is a good place to stop as any. Again, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for coming in and talking.
Doug, that was such an emotional session for me as I watched Gary and Mary work. Is this a good example of working with a difficult couple?
I think it's a good example, John. It's a good example of a piece of work. Mary and Gary are very interesting. They're clearly a couple in crisis. If you wanted to construct a crisis for a couple, you couldn't construct one better than this. What partly makes this interesting and what partly makes this difficult is this is a couple who's not currently in couple therapy, and yet they just have tremendous things going on in their lives. It means we only have a limited time to work together, a limited amount of work we can do, and a special, perhaps, kind of piece that we can do. So this is a good example of getting in there and trying to work with crisis, knowing that there's a lot more that this couple still needs.
Now, if they were to be your regular clients in an ongoing therapy situation, how would you see therapy taking place?
Working with difficult couples, I see working with difficult couples as unfolding across 5 or 6 stages. And let me just talk a little bit about those stages.
And can you talk specifically how they would fit with Gary and Mary?
At first stage, one really need to establish just a collaborative alliance with couples. Couples sometimes come in with tremendous distress, sometimes tremendous negativity with each other. They're not in alliance with each other. They're sometimes not able to establish alliance with you. Gary and Mary are interesting in that regard, in that they will tell me about what a good marriage they have, and I absolutely believe that they have a good marriage, but to the extent that they focus on how well their marriage is working, they're not going to be able to do the work with me about what's not working. And so part of the initial work in this session is just going to be, can we do a piece of work that affirms what's good in your marriage, but also looks at what's going wrong or what's not working well. Second stage with difficult couples is just dealing with crisis. Not all couples have crisis, but this couple clearly does. When a couple is in crisis, you have to deal with that before you can do anything else. You're not going to be able to do a lot of teaching of relationship skills.
Okay, so this couple would be at step 1 and 2.
Yeah, mostly at step 2. And when we work with a couple, what we're going to see is mostly stage 2 work of just trying to get in there and deal with the crisis, deal with the emotions that are getting in the way. So that's what you would do for now with them for a period. And then where would treatment go? If we can work with this couple and get through crisis, where therapy would go is helping them to develop whatever skills that they don't have, whether that's decision-making skills, listening skills, other kind of relationship support skills that they need.
Would that be like the 3rd stage?
3rd or 4th stage, strengthening the relationship, promoting relationship skills. And then with some couples that's sufficient. With some couples it's not. And with those couples, what happens is they may have the skills, they may not be in crisis, but emotions get in the way of their using the skills that they have. And when that happens, then the work with difficult couples is trying to help them understand what is it that happens with you as individuals, what is it that happens in this relationship that gets in the way of using skills that otherwise you would ordinarily have. You know, I do a lot of workshops with mental health professionals, and I will ask them, how many of you think you're good communicators? And virtually everybody will raise their hand. And then I ask them, how often at times can you not believe the words that come out of your own mouth? And then I raise both of my hands. The issue is it's not always just about having skills or teaching skills. The more difficult issue, and I think the more interesting issue is what gets in the way of your using skills that you have.
And with this couple, even though they may need to work longer-term treatment because of their issues with this health problem, they're probably only going to be able to work for a short period of time. So that adds to the complexity? It
does add to the complexity, not only a short time today, but perhaps a short time after today.
Right.
What we're going to try to do today in this session is do a piece of this work.
Right.
And what I'm going to try to get them to do is to deal with what's the emotional crisis in their relationship.
Well, let's look at how you did that. Let's take some clips from the session that we just saw. Maybe go right to the beginning and see how you opened it up to focus on that if we can.
Good.
Okay.
I would like to have you begin our work tonight just by telling us a little bit about you as a couple. And then bring us up to date about what are you wrestling with now, and because that's where we're going to focus tonight. So, both of you talk with me about who you are as a couple. Either one of you can start.
Well, I think we're real happy together as a couple. You know, I waited a long time to meet someone like Mary, and she's brought my life to a better place. Let's say. I've never been happier before, and it's 100% of it has got to do with her. You know, what she brings to the table for me. I was never in a real loving relationship like I am with her because, You know, every time you talk on the phone, it ends with "love you, see you later," or, you know, when I'm working or something like that. And her daughter's the same way. You know, every time you talk to him, it's okay. See you later. Love you. Everything's, you know. And I never was like that.
That's
you know?
special.
I've never been like that, and it took me a long time to actually kind of accept it, because I always thought, like, okay, love you, know, this kind of thing. And now it's more meaning now, and it keeps us really close together, and we never seem to drift at all. You know,
it's important to you, and this marriage feels different than you had ever experienced before.
Yeah, it's been the best.
Now, Doug, you know, they say that they're a happy couple. I thought this was a program on difficult couples. I mean, what were you hearing?
They're a delightful couple. This is you know, there are times that we would die for a couple like this that talk about how wonderful the marriage is. What's going to be difficult isn't about anger and contempt and dysregulated affect. That's not what's going to be difficult for this couple. What's difficult with this couple is they clearly have some issues to deal with. They're not evident yet in this session. I know them from some time that we spent right before we started this, talking with them about what's happening in their life. What's going to be difficult, and what's going to be difficult with Gary in particular, is will he join me in looking beyond what's going well to work on what's not going well? And I know from them, for example, that she has wanted for several months to pursue couple therapy. She's mentioned it to him several times. She mentioned it to him even as we were talking before we began our session together. He clearly, when he hears that, you can see some of the confusion, some of the alarm, some of the surprise. He has some apprehension, some resistance to doing that. So what's going to be partly difficult in our work together is, can I get him out of that retrenchment? Can I get him to engage with me to talk about what is hard for them?
Sort of moving him out of his fantasy more into reality?
That's another good way of phrasing that, yes.
Okay, let's look at the next clip. And the next clip is one where she introduces to us that she has cancer. Okay.
Last February, we got hit with news that I have cancer, real rare cancer. So it's been, I don't know if I can talk now.
Hang in there with me. It's okay.
It's been hard on her. It was hard on me at first because of all the running to the hospital all the time. I'd stay overnight at the hospital and leave from the hospital and go to work, and you know, and then, you know, when we're home at night and stuff, or when I get home in the evening, or even during the day when we have because I call her every day, you know, at least once or twice, see how she's feeling.
You know that this is a hard time for her.
Yeah, and you know, I could tell in her voice if she's not feeling good, and it's most of the time she's not, and sometimes she has a good day, and that's when she starts really, really doing things around the house that she likes to do. And
Get this over to you.
then the next day, of course, she's hurting and worn out.
Did you realize this was a hard time for her in here even just a moment ago, that she was finding it hard to talk about?
Yeah.
Is that why you came in to help take that over for her?
Well, I help her out every time I can, every chance I get.
You know, he seems to really be helping her and rescuing her, and yet she seems to need some rescuing.
There are two parts of this clip that really stand out for me that I think are important. The first part is just how overwhelmed she is by this. She is literally immobilized. When she starts to get in touch with the feelings that she has about having been diagnosed with this very difficult cancer, that isn't clear that there's a cure for, or even a treatment for right now. I'm struck by that, and I'm struck by how he comes in to try to, as you said, to try to rescue her. My thought is that this is a pattern that repeats itself at home, that she has very difficult emotions. She finds it difficult to talk about. But what he does, instead of coming in and helping her to talk about those feelings, is he comes in, he rescues her, he talks about what they're doing well, or he'll talk about what they're struggling with in terms of their economic situation, but he doesn't have a way of engaging her to help her talk about her feelings. And what we're going to try to do in here is, at some point, I've got to get him to stop doing that.
Right.
And at some point, I have to get her to come out and deal with me.
So you're guessing that his role, or hypothesizing that his role is one of a rescuer, And her role would be, what would you guess her role is?
I'm not sure what her role is at this point. I think he tries to rescue, and I want to support helpfulness. I want to support rescuing, but only in a particular way.
Okay.
I don't want to support his rescuing her in a way that takes her away from her feelings.
Okay.
I want to support his getting in there to be helpful to her in dealing with the feelings. And right now, he's not doing that.
Okay. Well, let's take another clip and give you a chance to comment on it. And the next clip that we're going to look at is where she talks about not being a team player.
Good.
Okay.
What has happened? I know that you were diagnosed with cancer in February. I know that other things have happened too. Some of them related to that, some not. Talk with me about what's happened and talk with me about what you're struggling with.
Well, I've always been a worker since I was 14, you know. I work all the time. I still do now, and I'm not really supposed to. But, so for me, it's hard for me to have him, you know, like we had just built an addition. We started in October, and I was diagnosed in February. Well, you know, you take on a project like that as, you know, a couple, you know, 2 incomes. And then, you know, so of course I feel guilty because, you know, I feel us as a team with everything, you know. And I just feel like I'm not, you know, part of the team.
What part of the team are you supposed to be?
She's very much part of the team. She just struggles with the fact that she can't do the things today that she used to do.
Talk with me about how she's a part of the team, because she doesn't feel that way, and it's hard even for her to talk.
Well, she thinks...
So, Doug, as you're watching this clip, what are you seeing?
I want her to be able to talk about what the emotional impact of this is. I want to know what those emotions are. I want to know how able she is to identify them and label them. I want to know how able she is to talk with him about those feelings. What I hear from her are the feelings of guilt. I'm not convinced that that's what all the feelings are. In fact, I'm convinced that those aren't all the feelings, but that's what I hear from her. When she talks about teamship, what she's talking about is how we're not anymore a team, but it's not a team of work that she's missing. It's the team of emotional connection. What he does is, again, what he did earlier in the session is he jumps in. He doesn't want her to struggle with that sense of guilt, so he'll talk to try to rescue her. What I want him to do at this point is I want him to talk with her about how she is a part of the team. It's a different team now. It needs to be a different teamship. It needs to be a different role. It's not about her working outside the home and generating income. It's about a different way of being a team, a different way of being connected.
Yet he came in and kind of rescued her there, and you let him do that. And, you know, I think she could probably speak for herself.
I think she probably can speak for herself. At this point so far, I'm letting him jump in because I'm not sure yet still about the collaboration and the alliance that he and I have. If I know them better, if I've had a chance to work with them a little bit more, I'm willing to risk that a little bit more. I'm willing to cut him off, to sort of challenge his jumping in, to try to get him to hold back and pull her in. Right now, I'm still letting him jump in, but at this point, I want him to jump in a different way.
And let's watch the next clip, because that's what you do, is you focus a little bit more on how she is a part of the team. Okay?
I know I'm interrupting you. This is a very difficult time. I know you're really struggling, and there is a lot more pressure on you. I wonder if you could, though, for now, just for now, turn to Mary and tell her how she is a member of the team. That's what I want you to do.
Well, you should never, ever think that you're not doing the things you are supposed to or can do. That's what I think, and I've always told you that.
How is she a member of the team? Then what is it that she provides now that makes her a member of this team for you?
Well, first of all, she's married to me, and she supports me, and no matter what I do. She's very, very supportive. She's very loving, and she still does things, I mean, simple things like making my lunch in the morning. She gets up with me and makes my coffee and makes my lunch and makes sure I have, you know, something to go to work with and a kiss goodbye and, you know, a call in the afternoon. And either I call her or she calls me, and just to talk with each other. And if she wasn't in my life, I wouldn't have that. I wouldn't have that person to wake up to. I wouldn't have that person to talk to and just tell her how my day's going, whether she's having a good day or bad, you know. And she's always there for you. I mean, 100%, she's always there for you.
The way that she is a member of this team for you isn't about the income that you're earning or the income that you're not earning. The way that she is a member of this team for you is the emotional support that she brings to you. That's what you need most from her. Is there any way that she's not doing that?
Never.
Doug, why is this clip so important?
This couple has to reformulate what their relationship is about. Mm-hmm. This is a couple that they trust each other, they support each other, they're good teammates, they're good soulmates, but one of the ways that they connect is around their work. What they bring to their relationship through work. She can't continue to do what she has done in the past. She has to find a different way of giving to him. And if they're going to move forward, they can't do that by working harder. They have to work differently. What they have to do is they have to find a way of working at coming together around this tragedy, coming together around this grief, around their anticipated loss. This is the first time in this session that he has said, if she weren't there for me, I don't know what I would do. Mm-hmm. And that's the feeling, that's the thought that if we can, I'd like to be able to work some with them.
Now, you were almost coaching him and directing him in terms of how to do that. Is that an important part of this particular phase of treatment?
It is, because at this point, I don't think that either one of them yet has some of the relationship skills that I would want to be able to work with them down the road. He more than she is not very good in terms of emotional expressiveness. Right. He's not particularly good at hearing her feelings, being able to label those and to mirror those back. So before they have those skills on their own, I just have to step in and I have to make that happen. Mm-hmm. I almost have to coach him not only on what to say, but to how to say it.
Mm-hmm. Maybe what not to say might be another thing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to the next clip, and the next clip is where she talks about just how much longer she's going to be alive.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I mean, there's frustration. I hear the frustration, I hear the confusion, but I think there's something else, and so I want to try to get to that other feeling. Not knowing where you are, that was the phrase that you used. I want you to talk about that, not knowing where you are. What feeling goes with that?
Well, I guess, I think about all the time, like, how long am I going to be here? If they, I don't know where I'm at, because it's not like you're going after just one thing and they have this plan, on how to fight it, because, like I said, it's such a strange cancer that they have trouble finding it because it moves around.
When you have those thoughts,
there's no plan.
When you have those thoughts of how long am I going to be here, and not having a sense that there's a plan of action, and even are they going to overlook it, or are they not going to treat it? How long am I going to be here? Tell me about the conversations that you have with Gary about those thoughts.
Sometimes the way I'm feeling, ill-wise, I'm sometimes afraid to go to sleep, because I get so, weak that, I'm not going to wake up, So, he's always there to support me, saying...
She just seems really afraid.
She is. This is the core for them.
Mm-hmm.
This is the core of how long am I going to be here? What happens with me? What happens with you after I'm gone? Mm-hmm. This is the elephant in the room that they're not talking about.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's really not about her job at all.
It's not. And I don't think it's about guilt, about I'm not helping in the way that I've used to help. I think it's, if there's guilt, it's a different kind of guilt. It's a guilt about leaving him alone after they've just come together after almost 50 years of life.
Right. And his humor, is it very helpful?
I think it's helpful at times. I think it's helpful more for him perhaps than for her. It's helpful at times. I think what it does is it allows them at times to escape from just this overwhelming fear and the anticipated loss. But it clearly at times is a barrier. I think Gary's way of dealing with this is just to push everything aside. He smiles through it. He smiles even as he's talking sometimes about how difficult it is for her. His humor distances them from those feelings. Sometimes that's welcome reprieve, but sometimes it really serves as a barrier. I need for him to be willing to engage with her around the hurt.
Well, let's take this next clip where you get her to talk about what he does that is helpful. Okay?
One of the ways that you get through is that you really do. You find in your spiritual life and your faith life a way of putting that out, a way of not letting yourself fear that.
Right.
That you have to have faith
Right.
that it will work out. And that works for you. It allows you to move forward. It allows you to smile. It allows you to joke. And it allows you to play. I'm wondering how Mary struggles and what works for her. And so I want you to ask her about that. I want you to ask her how she deals with those thoughts and those feelings and fears when she has them. Ask her about them right now. And ask her during those times what she most needs from you. Just ask her and have her talk with you about that.
What do you fear, Mayor? What is your biggest fear? Do you think you're going anywhere?
Good for you.
What do you fear seems like such an important question, yet it's a question that they managed to avoid until now.
They are avoiding it. I won't get to see them after this session, and I don't know if they'll see someone else. I want them to take something from this, to have and to use after we end. What I want him to have, to take with him, is a different way of interacting with her. He already has the humor down. He already has the, let's escape this, let's get some reprieve. He knows how to do that, and he does that well. What he doesn't know how to do is to engage her around the unthinkable, around the untalkable. If I can just get him to talk with her about what do you fear, it will allow her to talk about the fears that she needs to talk about. It will also allow him a different way of connecting with her.
So are you really trying to teach them some skills here?
I certainly am trying to give them maybe a skill. I think more importantly than a skill, I'm trying to give them a different way of thinking about what they need to do. If I can shift their paradigm from what we need to do is to find a way not to confront this, not to talk about it, not to be overwhelmed by it, but instead shift their paradigm to what we need to do is we need to find a way of connecting around this. We need to find a way of talking about it so that it's not so fearful, it's not so overwhelming. If I can get them to do that, then everything else will follow. I don't need to give them the language or the words if I can get them to do that.
You just need to give themselves permission to go ahead and to talk about these previously taboo topics.
Permission to do it, and discovery that when they do it, it's not devastating, that they can do it. Not only have permission, but they have the ability.
Yeah, this is just such a difficult topic to talk about, too.
And I think it's difficult for any of us.
For the therapist as well.
It is.
What goes on with you at these times when you talk about these, like this is an unsolvable problem? It's solvable in the short run, but not in the long run.
I think as a therapist, you have to balance two things. I think you have to be willing to engage them empathically around that feeling. That sometimes means weeping with them. It also means not finding the balance of not becoming overwhelmed with it, not becoming immobilized by it in the way that they are. And I think that's a difficult balance sometimes to achieve. You can't be so distant from it that somehow you can't meet with them on that emotional ground. You have to get involved with them and meet them on that ground. But you can't be overwhelmed by it. So I want to join them around that fear. I want to get them engaged in that fear and to confront it. But I, as a therapist, need to make sure that I don't become overwhelmed by that.
Yeah, you can't take it on for them, sure. Let's move on to our next clip. In the next clip, you're doing what I'm going to call some testing.
Just went by, and I was actually near exhaustion, where I got really sick, and I just had to go to bed right now. I don't even know what time it was, 6 o'clock or something.
You really see ways in which that guilt drives you too far.
Yeah, too far.
Becomes physically unhealthy for you. It may also become emotionally unhealthy for you.
Both, yeah, definitely.
Before the diagnosis of cancer, did you ever have that feeling in the marriage? Did you ever have feelings of guilt? I'm not doing enough. I need to be doing more.
Well, the only thing she had, it'd pop up every now and then, is she thought she should make more money.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Because I was working part-time, actually, because, I was only working part-time because I had a leg problem, but that was another story.
So guilt is a new feeling for you? That's not a feeling you've had much in the past in your life?
No, because, like I said, I've always worked as hard as, I thought possible. I was never lazy or anything like that, so no, I wasn't guilty.
It's not a familiar feeling, it's a new one, and it's a new one that you struggle with.
Can you tell our viewers just what you were doing here and what you learned in this segment?
This is probably as close as I ever get in working with this couple to testing the grounds around, will they allow me to work with them or explore with them what some of the origins are of how they cope, how they deal with loss, how they deal with intimacy, how they deal with fears. Will they allow me to explore some of the history of that in other relationships? And the reason for doing this is, even when couples know what they need to do and they know what they need to talk about, and sometimes they have reasonably good relationship skills and communication skills to be able to do that, sometimes they just can't. And what gets in the way of doing that are emotional patterns, ways of dealing in intimate relationships that don't serve them. And to help them do that, you've got to be able to go back and ask, how did this come about? How is this familiar for you? How is this feeling familiar? How have you wrestled with this before? How have unresolved challenges around similar feelings in the past got left undone? I want to know whether she's able to do that with me. How is this guilt familiar? How has she wrestled with guilt in the past? And it's clear that either I've mislabeled the feeling, and so part of the reason that this doesn't occur is because I haven't labeled the feeling accurately. Maybe it's not about guilt, maybe it's about something else. Or at this point, she's just so overwhelmed in trying to deal with this in the moment that at least today, in my work with them, we can't explore the past and how that contributes to this.
And the past, is this like the transgenerational pattern that might be going on within her family of origin?
Could be transgenerational. When I think about where are the sources of those relationship schema, where are the sources of those relationship patterns, sometimes they are transgenerational. You can just trace that pattern across parents and grandparents, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes those enduring vulnerabilities come from later relationships. Sometimes they're from injuries in relationships in young adulthood. Some of those enduring patterns may come from her first marriage.
So they can come from other sources, but there's a historical root to it where it was learned.
There often is that historical root, and if that historical root's getting in the way, then it needs to be explored.
Now, you mentioned before about the elephant in the living room, and that seems so apt for this couple, that it's all just right here in front of them, all of this emotion and affect, and they just don't acknowledge it.
There are two things that are difficult to do with Gary and Mary right now in this session, and that's partly because they come in new to this experience. They haven't worked with someone like me in the past, and so they don't know what I'm like. And part of it is because we have such a limited time. But there are two things that are difficult to do. One is that, at least in this session, it's hard for me to explore the history, the relationship patterns for either Gary or Mary. We just don't have enough time, and I think they're also probably a little bit defended about doing that. But the other thing that we can't do, this elephant in the room that I think is the biggest issue for them, is the fear of the death,
Right.
the fear of the loss. And in this session, I'm reluctant to go too deeply into that with them because I don't want to expose them to that fear and have them leave this session consumed with it and not have a way of dealing with it.
This may be just a minor point, but if you do collect that relationship history, do you do that one-on-one, or do you do it with both?
I try
present?
to do it with both present, and the reason for that is each partner not only needs to come to understand their own history, but they need to come to understand the other one's history. They not only need to resolve those vulnerabilities for themselves, but when they understand the other partner's vulnerability, what that does for the other is that it allows them to not personalize their partner's behaviors. It allows them not to be as reactive. It allows them to step outside that behavior and instead respond more supportively.
Can some of this information be collected just with pencil and paper ahead of time?
It can. I think it works to the extent that some of the information isn't in their awareness. Self-report measures aren't going to get it.
I see. Okay. This is just a small point. I just wondered about the technique and strategy that you'd use. So let's go to a final clip. And the final clip is where you reframe his message. Let's watch.
What he's trying to tell you is being able to provide for you, not just by his work outside the home, that's a big piece of it, but being able to provide for you in the home is an important part of him. It's an important part of how he feels good about himself. It helps him to feel better as a person. It helps him to feel more of a man in taking care of his wife. I think it makes him feel better about his faith life and being true to that. He needs to be able to do that for you because it's better for him in addition to being better for you.
Well, he's been saying it the last week or so. He's, said, I need to help you more around here. Of course, I disagree with him. But
well, if you hear that as, I need to help you more around here because you need it, what you're going to say is, no, I don't, I'm okay, you don't need to do that for me, I can do this. That's not the message I'm asking you to hear tonight.
I know.
He's not saying, I need to do this in order to be helpful to you. The message that he's giving you tonight is, I need to do this because when I do, I feel better about myself. That's the message that he's giving you. So I want you to mirror that part back. I want you to restate that part back so that he knows that you've heard that. And also because I want to make sure that you've heard it. And because I think if you say it tonight in here, you're a little bit more likely to say it to yourself after tonight outside of here. And that's much more important to me than what you say tonight. So that's why I want you to say this back. Gary, I hear from you.
Gary, I hear from you that when you want to do something for me, it's not only helping me out, because I'm sick and stuff, but it'll make you feel better, because that's your way of showing me how much you love me and care for me, and it's in the long run better for our marriage if I let you help me more.
And it's better.
This sort of sounds like to me that you're giving them some indirect homework.
I am. This is my one shot with this couple. There are two things I want them to have when they leave tonight after this session. One is I want them to have a way of talking about the untalkable. I want them to have a way of talking about the feelings that up until now they just don't talk about. The other thing I want them to have is I want them to have a way of connecting. And it can't be connecting around work. It has to be a way of connecting and coming together in a different way. The way that they can connect is for him to nurture her in ways that she'll allow it. So far, he nurtures her by doing everything outside the home. He nurtures her by taking care of the lawn, taking care of the trucks, working 6 days a week. He'll tell you about all the ways that he's cared for her. He doesn't care for her by helping her in the home, by helping her by talking about what she's dealing with, and she's resistant to allowing him to do that. She's resistant to giving up the role that she has used to connect with him in the past. I need for her to let him do that, and the only way she will do that is if I help him explain to her more effectively why that's important to him.
Would you ever use an activity like the Caring Days activity, where you ask them to list 10 things their partner can do for them to show that you care for me?
I do that with couples quite a bit, and it's a part of that promoting relationship strength, trying to promote positivity for a couple. Couples often come in sort of wounded, retrenched, and withdrawn states. Nothing positive is going on. And before I can teach a lot of skills, certainly before I can look at what's getting in the way of those relationship skills, there has to be some sense of motivational alliance. There has to be a sense of there is something good about this marriage to hold on to.
But see, my guess is that, you know, on her list of things that he could do that shows that he cares, one of them is not tar the driveway, nor, you know, take care of the lawn. They're probably much more personal. And I think he's putting forth a lot of effort to connect, and it's just not registering with her.
Gary has all the right motives. Gary has all the right intentions. Some of the skills that he lacks is, how can I be relationally caring in a different way? And so certainly that's going to be some of our work. And part of that intervention is, you can do this in part by not only helping in the home, but helping, getting her to allow you to help her in this way by explaining it differently about what it means to you.
Now, you ask them to practice mirroring, and mirroring is a very difficult skill. Is this something, if you were to work with them, you would give them more training in?
Absolutely. I don't know to what extent Gary and Mary need help around decision-making skills and conflict resolution, but they absolutely need help around emotional expressiveness, expressing emotions, hearing them, mirroring them back, connecting around feelings. I don't know if they'll be able to do it outside of here. I mean, there wasn't much teaching about mirroring in this session, but I needed for her to mirror, if for no other reason that I needed to know that she had heard him and that there was a chance that she was going to take this outside of here.
Yeah, wow. Well, this has just been fascinating, watching you work with Gary and Mary and learning more about difficult couples and how to work with them. Are there any final words that you might have for our viewers on working with difficult couples?
I think for a therapist to work with difficult couples, you need to be able to do it all. I think couples work is challenging. It's not only about teaching skills, it's not only about resolving crisis, it's about dealing with all the feelings that get in the way of doing that. Couple therapists need to be able to do it all, and they need to be able to deal with the affect live as it's happening. I think it's hard work. I think it's great work. There's nothing more rewarding.
Oh, thanks, Doug.
Yeah. Thank you.